Eleanor Hayes. I'll use Eleanor Hayes throughout. At 11:51 in the evening, my phone screen flared to life with a kind of cold light that cuts straight through excuses. A single text from my mother. We've decided. You're cut off. Stay away from every holiday, every birthday, every Sunday roast. No calls, no second thoughts. Just gone. A heartbeat later, my sister tapped the little heart icon underneath, as if disowning someone could be casual, like liking a vacation photo. I didn't gasp, didn't dial back begging for reasons. I simply flipped open my laptop, navigated to every recurring charge I'd been carrying for them, and began pressing cancel like I was closing windows on a house I no longer owned. By 12:03, the first domino tipped. Their electricity meter blinked into darkness somewhere across town. Before I walk you through the fallout, tell me in the comments where you're hearing this from, because I need to know the world still holds more than one person who has ever had to flip the breaker on blood. The apartment went still the way only midnight can manage after a detonation. The refrigerator's low drone, the soft click of the radiator cooling, even the muffled siren 2 streets over, everything sounded like it was taking notes. My palm rested on the warm trackpad, pulse calm enough to frighten me. This anger wasn't the screaming kind I'd grown up dodging. It was surgical, the quiet click of a calculator finally balancing. For a decade, I'd been the invisible shareholder in their idea of togetherness. The mortgage that never missed a payment, because my direct deposit filled the gap. The car insurance that auto-renewed every 6 months from an account they never checked. Every overdraft, every vet bill for Kayla's designer dog, every midnight plea that started, "It's just this once, Ellie, we're in a bind." I'd labeled it duty, love, the eldest daughter tax. Tonight the label peeled off and revealed a subscription I'd been paying in installments of my own future. I swept my gaze across the living room I'd kept immaculate since I was 19. Baskets sorted by color, labels in my own handwriting, plants watered on a schedule taped inside the cabinet door. Order had been my rebellion against the childhood house, where dishes grew mold and the lights flickered whenever the mood struck. But tonight the order turned prosecutor. Every manila folder of receipts, every auto-pay confirmation email, every polite, "no problem" text I'd sent, they formed a breadcrumb trail straight back to my own open wallet. I used to believe love meant absorbing the shrapnel so no one else had to. Stay quiet, stay useful, and maybe one day they'd notice the scars and call them medals. Mom had spoon-fed me guilt the way other mothers ladled chicken soup, small, hot doses at every meal. My sister Lauren was the fireworks, loud and impossible to ignore, consequences optional. Dad had perfected the art of studying the carpet whenever thunder rolled in. I'd perfected the art of making sure the thunder never had to land. I can still taste the metallic panic of the first time I bailed them out of foreclosure. I was 26, scraping by on freelance deadlines and grocery stores sushi, when Mom's voice cracked through the speaker. "The bank's sending papers, Ellie. They're taking the house." I wired 12 grand I didn't have, told myself it was an investment in the only address I'd ever known. She called me her miracle. Miracles, it turns out, come with interest. Then came the cascading water bills, credit card minimums, Lauren's junior year abroad that somehow cost $24,000, Dad's root canal he forgot to budget for. I kept a running tab in my head the way sailors count stars, certain that one day the sky would notice I was steering by it. Regret should have flooded in, hot and drowning. Instead I felt the cool click of clarity, like a spreadsheet finally auto-summing. This wasn't a nervous breakdown, it was an audit. I wasn't mourning a family, I was itemizing one. The last time we'd all sat down together had been Easter 6 months earlier. Mom adjusted my collar in front of the cousins like I was still 12. Lauren scrolled through photos of the Paris trip I'd funded, calling it a little work perk. Dad cracked that I was married to my spreadsheets, and everyone laughed except the gravy, which just sat there getting cold. I'd smiled, passed the rolls, and swallowed the realization that the table was a tribunal, and I'd been testifying against myself for years. Now, under the blue-white glow of the screen, I opened a blank workbook. Columns marched across date, amount, purpose, proof. My fingers remembered the choreography. Every cell I filled was a memory converted to currency, a small resurrection. Outside, traffic lights sequenced red to green like a heartbeat the city didn't know was racing. Somewhere in the suburbs, my parents slept under a roof I still legally owned, confident their decree had ended the story. They had no idea I was only on chapter 2. Morning arrived with a museum exhibit of missed calls. Dad at 6012, Mom at 6014, Lauren at 1618, each name a fossil of a life I was done excavating. I let them ring into oblivion. Silence had mass now, the weight of receipts. The first text to land wasn't even an apology. It was Lauren. You're being dramatic. Mom was upset. Can we just talk like adults? Talk. The word tasted like spoiled milk. I read it twice, hunting for remorse. Found only choreography. Deleted, back to the ledger. Every line I added was a ghost story with $signs. The semester I ate oatmeal for dinner, so Lauren could study in Barcelona. The month I skipped my own car payment to keep Dad's truck from repossession. The emergency root canal I covered the week my freelance check bounced. At 9 sharp, Mom fired off an email. No salutation, no ownership, just, we need to discuss the chaos you've caused. Call immediately. Not a whisper about the exile, only a summons to resume my post as crisis janitor. For the first time I saw the architecture, clearly the family I'd been propping up had never asked to be saved. They'd hired an unpaid intern. I typed back, currently reconciling decades of generosity. Suggest you do the same. Sent. The phone erupted. I watched it vibrate itself across the coffee table like a trapped insect, then go still. By noon the panic had metastasized. Dad, the water's off. What did you do? Lauren, you're destroying everything we built. As if the foundation hadn't been my overtime. I opened the banking app, scrolled back 5 years of statements, and felt the guilt sutures snap one by one. What replaced it wasn't rage, it was calibration. At 3, they rotated through every greatest hit: anger, bargaining, nostalgia, scripture. Mom posted a passive-aggressive Facebook novel about children who forget their upbringing the minute money touches their hands. 37 likes, mostly from cousins who still owed me for their own weddings. I screenshotted, said nothing. Silence had upgraded from defense mechanism to superpower. At 6 I phoned Rebecca. We'd met sophomore year over burnt dorm coffee. She was now a family law attorney who could smell inheritance fraud from 3 states away. I'm done being their ATM, I said. She didn't waste time on pity. Then build the paper fortress. I'll bring the siege engines. That night I mined old email chains, exported PayPal histories, labeled PDFs like a librarian preparing for the apocalypse. Every file I dragged into the folder felt like exhaling smoke I'd been holding since childhood. By 2 a.m., the digital briefcase was locked, keyed, and lethal. The second night settled into a predator's hush. Rebecca called at 11. Drafts ready. You're not requesting, you're demanding. She dictated the letter like a general briefing troops. Subject: outstanding balances Hayes family ledger. Body: polite, glacial, airtight. 30-day clock starts at delivery. I hit send at 11:47. The whoosh sound felt like cutting an umbilical cord made of platinum. 12 minutes later Dad replied, "Let's be reasonable." Mom, how could you do this to your own mother? Lorenz, you're unhinged. Same chorus, new verse. I forwarded the trio to Rebecca, poured tea, and waited for the next act. At 3:12 the phone became a strobe light. Voicemails layered like sediment. Mom's voice splintered. "Turn everything back on, we'll figure it out tomorrow." Tomorrow had already clocked in, they were just late. Rebecca's email pinged. Demand letter filed at 8:00 a.m. Sharp. I stared at my signature on a dozen documents I'd co-signed to keep their ship afloat. Tonight those loops and slashes became plaintiff's exhibits. Lauren fired off one last text. "This isn't strength, it's cruelty." Cruelty. The word used to flinch me. Now it sounded like the price of oxygen. I set the phone face down and noticed my hands weren't shaking. Before shutdown, I opened the county recorder's portal. The house deed glowed under my name alone. I'd never transferred it after the refinance. Some subconscious lifeboat. Tonight the lifeboat became the whole Navy. Dawn crept in pale and impartial. Rebecca's revised notice arrived with a post-it line. They drew the boundary. "We're just surveying it." I brewed coffee, watched steam curl like incense over a grave I was finally ready to close. The morning the certified envelopes left Rebecca's office, the city pretended nothing had changed. Baristas foamed milk, buses exhaled, sunlight slid between blinds like a bailiff. Inside my apartment the air tasted metallic, verdict adjacent. At 9:12 Dad called, he never led. "Pumpkin," he started, "syrup thick, this is spiraling. Let's keep it in the family." I let the silence unspool until he coughed. "It is in the family," I said. "It's just finally itemized." He tried the health card. "Your mom's blood pressure." I answered. She prescribed herself that stress. I just stopped refilling. Click. By noon Mom carpet bombed Facebook with lamentations and proverbs. We poured love into her and now she sues us for it. Aunt Claudia commented, "Disgraceful." Then the tide turned. "Cousin Marcus, didn't she float your mortgage after the flood?" "Cousin Lee. Pretty sure that's the sister who paid for my braces." The comment section fractured like cheap plaster. At 1:46 Rebecca forwarded a PDF. "Bank withdrawal, $40,000, Grandma's trust, signature forged in my own looping hand." The new court's countertops suddenly had provenance. By dinner the court had frozen every account with the Hayes name on it. Rebecca's text. Injunction granted. They can't buy groceries until discovery. That evening they tried every frequency. Emails titled, "Misunderstanding." Voicemails promising repayment. "Soon as things settle." I laughed so hard the neighbors probably thought I'd won the lottery. At 8:32 the intercom buzzed. Through the peaceful Mom stood clutching a manila envelope like a white flag. "Eleanor, open up. We're losing the house because of you." I cracked the door 6 inches. "No, you're losing it because of you. Here." I slid the eviction notice across the threshold. Official copy in 7 days. Her mouth opened, closed. Searched for the daughter who used to flinch. That daughter had clocked out. "Goodbye, Mom." The lock clicked like a period at the end of a very long sentence. I didn't listen for footsteps. I leaned against the door and felt the building's pulse sync with mine for the first time. The next afternoon the dominoes fell in perfect cadence. Power shut off at 2017, mortgage default notice timestamped 2041. Probate court flagged the forged trust amendment at 3:05. Online, Mom posted again. Heartbreak emoji, lawsuit emoji. Aunt Claudia tried for round 2. Cousin Leah quote, tweeted the thread with bank screenshots. The comment section went radio silent. At 4:12 an unknown Manhattan number. "Miss Hayes, Patricia Chen Surrogates Court. We're reviewing your grandmother's estate. Beneficiary alteration. Signature mismatch. Every marble slab in their kitchen suddenly had a price tag in felony ink." I forwarded the voicemail to Rebecca, ordered Thai food, and ate it on the floor like it was Christmas. The following week unfolded in quiet detonations. Cousins slid into DMs. They hit me up for rent senior year, never paid back. You're not crazy, Ellie. Each message a flare in the fog. Rebecca warned, they'll pivot to apology soon. Do not pass go. She was right. Mom's email subject, we forgive you. Please come home. I archived it under Extortion Attempts, Volume 4. 10 days later, the marshal posted the eviction notice. The house sold at auction to a lovely couple who planned to fill it with rescue dogs and vegetable gardens. Proceeds wired to me at 3:07 p.m. The confirmation email felt like the last puzzle piece clicking into a picture I hadn't known I was assembling. Lauren's final text, you won. I typed, no one wins when the game was rigged. Then blocked the number and every cousin who'd liked Mom's pity party. Rebecca's closing email was 2 lines, case settled. You're square. I bought a 1-bedroom with southern windows and a clawfoot tub. My friend Marcus helped carry boxes. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a 6-pack and said, 2 clean slates. First night in the new place, I opened the old spreadsheet, stared at the cathedral of numbers I'd built, then selected all and pressed delete. The screen flashed empty, then calm. I slept 8 hours straight, no 3 a.m. dread, no phantom ringtone. Word filtered back in soft fragments. Parents renting a 2-bedroom an hour outside city limits. Lauren waitressing at a chain she used to mock. I felt no victory, only the neutral distance of a rearview mirror. One Saturday I drove to the cemetery, laid daffodils on Grandma's stone, and whispered, they can't touch your pennies anymore. The breeze answered through the oaks like loose change in a jar. If you've ever had to saw off the branch you were sitting on because it was rotten, you know peace isn't fireworks. It's the quiet after the chainsaw stops. You're not heartless for choosing air over altitude sickness. If this landed somewhere tender, check the playlist. When family forgets the bill. Smash subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll meet you in the next story. We've got receipts and we're not afraid to use them. For word 1. Fast continue. The first month in the new apartment passed like the slow exhale after holding your breath underwater. I woke before the alarm, sunlight striping the hardwood in clean, honest lines. No frantic texts at 2 a.m. about a bounced check. No voicemail from Mom asking if I could just spot them until Friday. Just the soft click of the coffee grinder and the low hum of a life that finally answered only to me. I kept waiting for the guilt to creep back in, that old familiar itch under the ribs, but it never showed. Instead, there was space. Real, uncluttered space where I could hear my own thoughts without them being drowned out by someone else's emergency. Marcus came over on a Saturday with a bottle of Prosecco and a houseplant he swore was impossible to kill. We sat on the fire escape, legs dangling 3 stories above the alley, watching delivery bikes weave through traffic like schools of silver fish. He didn't ask about the family. He just nudged my shoulder and said, "You look like someone who finally stopped carrying the sky." I laughed so hard I almost dropped my glass. It was the first time in years I'd laughed without checking who might be offended. Work changed too. I'd been freelancing for a marketing firm that paid late and praised sparingly, always too busy putting out my parents' fires to negotiate better rates. One Tuesday, I walked into the creative director's office, slid a revised contract across her desk, and watched her eyebrows climb. "You want equity?" she asked. "I want what I'm worth," I said. She signed it before lunch. That night, I bought myself the good headphones I'd been eyeing for 2 years. The kind with noise cancellation, strong enough to mute an entire childhood. Rebecca called on a Thursday, voice crisp over the courthouse static. They're lawyering up. Some cousin of a cousin who passed the bar in '98 and mostly does DUIs now. I pictured the guy, polyester suit, coffee breath, and felt nothing but mild curiosity. "Let him file whatever," I said. "We've got the receipts and the judge." She laughed, the sound of someone who'd already won and was just waiting for the scoreboard to catch up. "I'll send you the motion to dismiss. Sign it, scan it, go live your life." I did. I signed up for a pottery class on Wednesday nights, the kind where you get clay under your nails and leave smelling like wet earth. The instructor, a woman named Delilah with silver braids and zero tolerance for self-pity, watched me wedge a lump of gray stoneware like I was trying to strangle it. "Softer hands," she said. The clay remembers anger. I thought of every time I'd slammed a drawer shut after another pleading phone call, every gritted tooth. "Sure, I can cover it." I loosened my grip. The clay centered under my palms like it had been waiting for permission. One evening after class, I stopped at the corner bodega for milk and ran into cousin Leah, the one who'd posted the bank screenshots. She froze between the cereal and the cat food, eyes wide like she'd seen a ghost. "Ellie," she whispered, then louder, "you look good." I smiled, genuine this time. "I am." We stood there awkward for a beat, then she blurted, "I'm sorry I didn't say more sooner. They had us all scared of being next." I touched her arm. "You spoke when it counted." "That's enough." She paid for my milk before I could stop her, slipped a 20 into the jar for the homeless vet outside, and disappeared into the night. I walked home under streetlights that felt like applause. The court date landed on a Tuesday in late October, the sky the color of wet cement. I wore the navy suit I'd bought for a conference I never attended, because Lauren needed bail for a traffic warrant. Rebecca met me on the courthouse steps, briefcase swinging like a metronome. "They're asking for mediation," she said. Translation: "They're broke and hoping you'll flinch." I adjusted my cuff. "Let's mediate." Inside, the conference room smelled of burnt coffee and desperation. Mom sat between Dad and their lawyer, a man whose tie was the exact shade of despair. Lauren wasn't there. Working a double shift, Rebecca had heard. Mom's eyes flicked to me, then away, like looking directly might burn. Dad stared at the table. The lawyer cleared his throat. "We propose a payment plan. $500 a month until the balance is clear." Rebecca didn't blink. "The balance is $287,412 plus interest. At $500 a month, Miss Hayes will see repayment in approximately 48 years. She'll be 73. Silence thick enough to chew. I leaned forward. "Here's what mediation looks like from my side. You sign over the remaining assets, Dad's 400 wunk, Mom's teacher pension, the boat you haven't taken out since 2019. We liquidate, I recoup, and we never speak again. Or we let the judge decide and the forgery charges move forward." Mom made a sound like a stepped-on cat. Dad's hand trembled on the table. The lawyer whispered something about family and optics. I waited. 30 seconds stretched into a lifetime. Finally, Dad nodded, a small, defeated dip of the chin. Rebecca slid the settlement across the table. 3 signatures, 1 notary stamp, and it was done. Outside, the rain had started, soft and steady. Rebecca hugged me sideways. "You just bought your freedom at wholesale." I laughed, surprised at how light it sounded. We ducked into a diner across the street, ordered grilled cheese and tomato soup like we were 12. She toasted with a milkshake. "To never answering another 3 a.m. guilt trip." I clinked my glass. "To soft hands and centered clay." The money hit my account in chunks over the next month. First the 401 tyke rollover, then the pension lump sum. Finally the boat sale. Some guy in Connecticut who thought light hull damage meant character. I paid Rebecca's final invoice, set aside 6 months' living expenses, and did something I'd never allowed myself to imagine. I enrolled in an MBA program part-time, fully funded by the settlement. The acceptance email arrived on a Friday. I read it 3 times, then called Marcus. "Drinks," I said. "Now." We met at a rooftop bar where the city glittered like it had been waiting for me to notice. Winter came early that year. I decorated the apartment with twinkle lights and a tiny fake tree that smelled faintly of plastic pine. On Christmas Eve, my phone buzzed once, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. A text, "It's Lauren, can we talk?" No emojis, no exclamation points. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I typed the bistro on 9th. "Tomorrow 2 p.m. 1 coffee. That's all you get." I hit send before I could overthink it. She was already there when I arrived, hunched over a light like it might shield her. Thinner, hair pulled back in a messy knot, no designer sunglasses propped in her hair. She stood when she saw me, then sat again unsure. I ordered a black coffee, no sugar, and slid into the booth opposite her. For a full minute we just breathed the same steamed milk air. Finally she spoke, voice small. "I start community college in January, on my own dime." I nodded. "Good." Another silence. "I'm sorry," she said. Not the Hallmark version. The real one. I was awful. We all were. I studied her face, hunting for the performance, but her eyes were red, rimmed and steady. "I don't need your sorry," I said. "I needed it years ago when it could have changed something. But I'll take the truth," she swallowed. "I'm trying to change something now." I believed her. Not enough to invite her to Christmas, but enough to finish my coffee without bitterness. Spring arrived with dogwood blossoms and the smell of possibility. I aced my first semester, made friends with a woman named Priya who could quote financial models and Beyoncé in the same sentence. We started a study group that met in my apartment on Sundays, laptops and takeout containers crowding the table where the old spreadsheet used to live. One night Priya looked around and said, "This place feels like someone who finally stopped apologizing for taking up space." I laughed until tears came, the good kind. Rebecca texted in April they're divorcing. House foreclosure finalized. Lauren's in therapy. I read it, felt the old reflex to fix, then let it go. Some fires you walk away from so you don't become the ash. In May I flew to Lisbon for a long weekend, alone. With a backpack and a paperback I actually finished. I sat on a tram rattling up cobblestone hills, sun on my face, and realized I hadn't checked my phone in 3 hours. The Atlantic stretched blue and endless below me, and for the first time I understood that oceans aren't barriers. They're horizons. Back home, I started volunteering at a financial literacy nonprofit on Saturday mornings, teaching teenagers how to read bank statements and spot scams. One kid, Jamal, 15 and sharp as a tack, asked, "What if your own family's the scam?" The room went quiet. I told him about the spreadsheet, the forged signature, the eviction notice. Not for pity, but for proof. "You draw the line," I said. "Then you guard it like it's the only thing keeping you breathing." He nodded, wrote it down in the margin of his workbook. I saw myself at 15 in his eyes, scared, scrambling, certain love meant paying forever. I hoped he'd learn sooner. Summer brought rooftop barbecues, and the kind of laughter that doesn't need a punchline. Marcus introduced me to his coworker Simon, a quiet architect with kind hands and a dog named Pickles. We took Pickles to the park one Sunday, threw a frisbee until the sun dipped low and gold. Simon asked, "You ever think about designing your own house someday?" I thought of the deed still in my name for 3 days after the sale, the power I'd held and released. "Maybe," I said. "But first I'm learning how to live in the one I've got." One August evening, Delilah, the pottery instructor, invited the class to an open studio night. I brought the lopsided bowl I'd been nursing for months, glazed it the color of storm clouds with a rim of gold. When it came out of the kiln, the crackle lines looked like lightning frozen mid-flash. I set it on my kitchen counter, filled it with peaches from the farmer's market. Every bite tasted like proof that broken things can still hold sweetness. In September, an email pinned from an address I didn't recognize. Subject: Grandma's ring. The message was from the probate clerk, Patricia Chen. Attached was a scanned form. My grandmother's safety deposit box inventory overlooked in the initial chaos. Inside, one diamond solitaire, appraised at $32,000, left to me by name. I drove to the bank the next morning, signed the log, and opened the small gray box with trembling fingers. The ring caught the fluorescent light and threw it back in 1,000 directions. I slipped it on my right hand, middle finger, where it fit like it had been waiting. On the drive home, I stopped at the cemetery, laid the appraisal papers on Grandma's stone next to fading daisies. "They missed this one," I whispered, but I didn't. Fall semester started with a group project on ethical investing. My team met in the library, arguing over case studies until the overhead lights flickered off at midnight. Walking home through campus, leaves crunching under my boots, I passed a bulletin board plastered with flyers: lost cats, guitar lessons, a support group for adult children of narcissists. I snapped a photo of the last one, not because I needed it anymore, but because someone else might. I texted it to Jamal with the caption, "You're not alone." He replied with a fist bump emoji and a voice note, "Turned 18 today. Opened my own checking account. No co-signers." I played it twice, smiling so wide my cheeks hurt. Thanksgiving came. I hosted Marcus, Priya, Simon, Delilah, even Rebecca, who claimed she didn't do holidays, but showed up with 2 pies and a bottle of bourbon. We crowded around my table, mismatched chairs, thrift, store plates, twinkle lights still up, because why not? Simon carved the turkey with the steady hands of someone who measured twice and cut once. Priya told a story about her mom trying to set her up with a doctor who turned out to be her cousin. We laughed until the windows fogged. At one point I looked around and realized every person there had chosen to be present. No guilt trips, no IOUs. The bowl with the gold crackle held cranberry sauce, and no one asked where I'd bought it. Later, washing dishes while Simon dried, he asked quietly, "You miss them at all?" I thought of Lauren's coffee apology, Mom's trembling hand on the eviction notice, Dad's defeated nod. "I miss who I thought they were," I said. "But I don't miss who they showed me they are." He nodded, stacked another plate. Fair enough. December brought the first anniversary of the 1151 text. I marked it the way you mark surviving a shipwreck. Quietly, with gratitude. I baked cinnamon rolls from scratch, took one to the fire escape, and watched snow dust the alley. My phone stayed silent. No emergencies, no manipulations, just the soft hush of a city tucking itself in. I licked icing off my thumb and thought, this is what peace tastes like when you stop paying other people to disturb it. The MBA program offered a summer internship in Copenhagen. I applied on a whim, got the offer on a Tuesday, accepted on a Wednesday. I spent the spring subletting my apartment to Priya's sister, packing light, 2 suitcases, the gold crackle bowl wrapped in sweaters, Grandma's ring on a chain around my neck. The night before my flight, Marcus threw a going-away party on the rooftop. Someone brought sparklers. Someone else brought a playlist that made Delilah dance like no one was watching. Simon pulled me aside near the railing, city lights flickering below us. 6 months is a long time, he said. I smiled. It's exactly the right amount. He kissed me then, slow and certain, like a promise neither of us needed to sign. The plane lifted off at dawn. I watched the skyline shrink, then vanish into cloud. 35,000 feet up, I opened my laptop, created a new spreadsheet. This one had columns for dreams, deadlines, and dollars I'd earn with my own name on the byline. I typed the first entry: Copenhagen, June, November. Goal: build something that can't be foreclosed. I saved the file as featured and closed the lid. Outside the window, the sun rose over the Atlantic, gilding the wing in molten light. I slipped Grandma's ring from the chain, slid it onto my right hand where it caught the sunrise and held it. Then I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the plane carry me forward into a sky that finally, completely belonged to me.